guys, welcome back to the Camp Chronicles. Today we thought we'd talk a little bit about time off at camp and how it kind of works. Obviously every single camp is going to be different, but we can just kind of share our experiences and what we did on our time off. So how much time off did you actually get at your camp? Did you get a lot or?
Yeah, we get a lot of time off because I'm pretty sure it's 4 nights off. So, for example, I've done both. I've been Wednesday day off and I've been Thursday day off because I've been a general counsellor, and there was also enough coverage to be on Wednesday specialists. So I've done 2 years on a Wednesday now as well. So how it works is on a Sunday night, we'll have off 9:30 till 12:30 at night, and then a Monday we'll be on duty. Then a Tuesday will be off 9:30 until the following day. So we have Wednesday day off, and then we don't have to sign back in until 12:30 a.m. on Thursday, and then would have Thursday night on duty, and then would have Friday night off, and then Saturday rotates. So you're either on duty or you go at the staff meeting and then you have the night off, but you have to be on camp on a Saturday night after the staff meeting.
So even if you're off, you're off, but you're on camp.
Yeah,
pretty much. Got you. See, your nights off are like what we class as mini nights off. So we get off one night off a week, which is from after flag raising, so from about 6 until 12:30 curfew. We get one of them, and then we get one mini night off. So the mini night off starts after evening activity, which usually finishes at about 9 until the 12:30 curfew. And then how many days off do you get a summer? Because we get four days off over the summer. You just don't get a day off in the first week of camp because obviously like everyone is new there. The kind of changeover week between the sessions, so week 4, and we also don't get one in week 7. We don't get a day off then. So there's 3 weeks where we don't get a day off, but we did get one off in orientation this year.
So during orientation, we don't necessarily get a full day off. We only get half a day, and it's usually on the afternoon, and they'll take us to Middletown Mall. And then we'll have one like night off where we'll be off from like 5:30 till 9:30, and they'll take us on the bus to the local bar called Wayne on the Hill, or they'll drop us off at Walmart. So that's how orientation works, so we don't get a full day. My first summer we did, and it was great. But that's because orientation was so much longer in 2022. So then that's how it's ran the other years after that. And then during camp itself, the kids get there on the Saturday, and the days off start like the following week. And then I think they stop around the 5th week or the 6th week, because we don't usually get one in Colour War, but we were owed one this year, so we did actually get days off during Colour War, and I think that was really difficult for the head staff to have people off during Colour War. But yeah, we get about 5 or 6 days off in total, and kind of with how many nights off you get as well, you barely ever really feel like you're on duty.
Yeah, you seem like you get quite a lot of time off, like in comparison to us. Ours is similar though as well. You don't get a day off during Colour War, purely obviously for coverage and like it's chaos. But with me having the older kids, like every summer, my trips that I've been on have always clashed with my nights off and days off. So my first summer, the kids they did a trip to Boston and then they did the Orlando trip. My day off clashed with Boston and it clashed with the Orlando trip. My second summer they were in DC and then Orlando, and they managed to like switch my days off, but it meant like there was only 3 of us off together, well 4 of us off together, and it was during Colour War. So the first week it was during college week and I did take my day off, so I missed a day of college week. And then the second one, it was when I missed it because of Orlando, it was during Olympics, but I was like, I really don't want to miss a day of Olympics, so I actually stayed because it was my girls' like upper camp girls track meet, and I absolutely love that. So I stayed on camp, I had my day off, I helped out during track meet, and then afterwards I just went up and like sunbathed at gymnastics and just had a really long nap in the bunk when there was no one there, so that was quite nice. And then same again this year, it got messed up because of trips. So if anybody is coming to Camp Echo and you do get the older kids prepared, time off sometimes does get a little bit complicated. Does that happen at yours as well, actually? I can imagine with the older kids going on trips, it does get a bit complicated.
Yeah, it does. So we have trip week and it's right
Hmm.
before Colour War. And what happens is freshmen, cadets, sophomores, they just go on a day trip. They don't
Hmm.
stay off camp. Juniors upwards, so juniors, seniors, supers, teens, CITs, teens and CITs trips like together. They all have like, I think this summer I'm taking the girls and I think we're away for 2 days. And
Hmm.
then as the older they're away for longer.
Yeah.
Um, so usually for anybody that takes the kids on trips, they usually miss out. And I have a feeling
Mhm.
next summer I'll probably miss out on my day off. But they try and work it so you can take it if you can. But also
Yeah.
it's like quite a privilege to be on trip because can't pay for it. So like,
Mhm.
not last summer but the summer before they went to LA. So it was kind of like you're going to LA, all expenses paid. You even get to spend the money while you're there kind of
Mhm.
like works for their day off.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how they're going to run it next year. But definitely, if you're going on trip, it does kind of mess up the schedule.
Yeah. Like Summer just said there, obviously the trips are all expenses paid and you do get spending money whilst you're there. The trips are incredible, but do not get me wrong, they are such hard work. And everybody that's at camp is definitely like, oh, like they're getting all this, they're getting paid to go here, there, and have all this fun. And absolutely, don't get me wrong, it is so much fun, and I am so grateful that I've been able to do it. But it is extra hard work because you don't get periods off, you don't get nights off. Like if I'm away for a week, like you don't get any time away from the kids apart from when you're sleeping. And even when you're sleeping in the hotel rooms, you're also constantly checking to make sure people aren't running about the corridors, making loads of noise, dealing with noise complaints. So they are so much fun, but also hard work. So for your trip this year, I hope everything goes so womanly for you.
Well, that's it. Like I can only speak for the like my friends that have been counsellors for the teens and CITs.
Hmm.
They come back and they are exhausted. Head staff members who are more like behind the scenes, like
Hmm.
working in the office and stuff like that, they come back, they are exhausted. Some of the
Hmm.
stories they tell that like they're sat outside in the corridor at 3 a.m. because kids are like trying to go over to like other people's rooms that they shouldn't be. And
Yeah.
everything you just said there, like hats off to you. I'm nervous for doing it, I've got to admit, but I know just from taking them to water parks for the past 3 years. I mean, I hate water parks. You don't even understand how much I hate water parks. I don't really like water. I know how exhausting just taking them out for a day is because there's public there. You know, you're not in your small little bubble, your
Hmm.
protection bubble where there's no outsiders.
Yeah.
So I know, like, just from a day trip, how stressful it is, let alone what it's probably been like for you taking them to somewhere like Orlando.
I think we could probably make a whole episode on this as well, actually, about talking about trips and things like that. And you just mentioned in there that you don't really like water parks. So did you? I'm assuming you never went to any water parks on your days off.
No, it was like an option to do,
Hmm.
but I never went because I don't like being submerged into water. It's just some
Okay.
fear I've got from being like a kid. I don't know why, but yeah, I was like this year, oh, get in, I get out of it. We just go to Hershey Park. No, it turns out we go to a water park there as well, so that's gonna be fun.
Not
Um,
getting out of it.
but camp on like your days off, actually like will run a bus to somewhere.
Hmm.
And like depending on the weather, if it's bad weather, you'll go to the mall, which
Hmm.
has a cinema in. Whereas if it's good weather, you'll go somewhere like Skinner's, or they've
Yeah.
taken us to like a national park, or they've taken us to a water park. It all just depends on like the climate on the day. But luckily for me, I've been able to get a car and I've been able to drive. So the day that we went to the water park, I think I can't
Doing
remember
it.
where I drove. I
No.
think I just drove into Hornsdale, and I think we went to Scranton as well, where the office is
Mhm.
filmed.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, random side quests.
Yeah. I think like the first summer I was at camp, it was all organised that way. They didn't have any minivans, so they literally just had the yellow school buses, and you kind of had to say like on this day what off we want to go to like Lake Minnewaska, on this day off we want to take a trip to Six Flags, and the camp would have to like prearrange the big yellow school buses to come. But my second summer and my third summer and hopefully they've got them again there for this summer. They actually had minivans that we could use. So they were like 16-seater minivans. So anybody that was obviously over 21 could drive those minivans and you could kind of go wherever. You'd had to go like usually a few days before to the office and like request to hire out the van. We were quite lucky being cabin staff because there's not as many cabin staff and our nights off are split into like two groups, whereas the activity staff, they are all off on one day together, bar a few lifeguards that like rotate to stay at camp. So on their days off, they would have to rent out quite a few vans. And then if there was like one person that didn't want to go where everyone else was going, you can't rent a van for one person. Like it's just not really fair. So either they'd have to hopefully beg for a car or hope that somebody else wanted to go somewhere else with them. But it did give us a lot more like freedom and flexibility, especially for like nights off. Like personally, the first two summers I would stay out till like the bitter end, but this year I just didn't have it in me. I was wanting to come back early, so usually would take two vans on like a night off if we're going to a bar or something like that, and I would have a slightly earlier van that would leave a little bit sooner, which was nice.
No, it does get to a point where you do like you're like I'm ready to go back and I'm ready to go back to bed. But the
Hmm.
problem is for like us is what's the first drop off, which
Hmm.
is what we call Wayne on the Hill. What's the first drop off? Then it's Walmart. And then the problem is if you go into Walmart, you have to wait until it's time to go and pick back up the people from Worth. So you end up
Yeah,
sitting outside Walmart for like 40 minutes and it's like
yeah.
shut. And then if you're at Worth and you're like ready to go home, you have to wait for that bus to come back for you to then
Hmm.
get back to camp because camp is in rural Pennsylvania. It's not somewhere you could just walk back somewhere.
Hmm.
So that's the only thing about it when you're like relying on the yellow school buses is that you're fixed to them times.
Yeah.
So when there's been loads of times when I've been at the bar and I'm like, oh, I'm so ready to go back and just get into my bed. I'm so
Hmm.
tired. Or there's been a night where I've been like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna go out. Then like friends have persuaded you, and then you like get there and you're like, oh, I really wish I didn't
Wish I
come.
hadn't. Yeah.
But you're kind of stuck there. So my advice for that is like listen to your mind and what you want to do and your body and what your body needs. Don't go off like what other people are doing.
Yeah, because again, like America and especially camp in general, well, is not super accessible unless you don't have a car. Like you can see why like kids get cars pretty much as soon as they can if they're able to, because like it's not a walkable place on a whole. I mean, obviously some major cities are, but especially when you're in camp, it's not walkable. Like you were saying, like the closest bar for us might be like a 15-minute drive away, and like it's like a tiny little town called Pine Bush where actually there's literally an alien museum there. It's so funny. Yeah, there's like this full on like alien museum, and like the place where everyone goes is called Long Street Tavern, and it gets shortened to the Tav. And then there's like a bit of a pizza place there. There's a McDonald's, but it's like a 20-minute walk from the bar where obviously everybody gets dropped off. And like there's a few bits and bobs. But if you decided you wanted to go back early, there's no way you're getting an Uber. Not a chance in hell you're getting an Uber. And if it's like a Wednesday night, there might not be many local taxi companies running. Like you just kind of got to firm it and wait it out. So yeah, like someone was saying, if there's nights where you think you don't really want to go out and you do just want to stay in, like trust your gut and just stay in and go and sit in the staff lounge. Like not every night off has to be like high intensity council has gone wild sort of situation, especially if you're under 21 because the drinking age is 21.
Yes, drinking age is 21.
Disclaimer. Yes.
Right. I was just thinking about like distances. What's crazy is during orientation, I actually go to Middletown Mall, like with my camp, and we
Mhm.
found out that Middletown Mall is not far from Ellen's camp. But on the flip side, Ellen comes to Skinner's, which is literally 10 minutes from my camp. Ellen, do you want to explain what Skinner's is?
The best way I can describe it, right, is you know in Grown Ups too, when they go and they're all like the college like frat dudes, it's like Taylor Lautner. Have you seen
Yeah.
it? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, it's like that, and but it's like a big party, but rather than it being on like a big cliff type thing, it's like a river and it's just like loads of rocks that are like long big flat rocks, and everybody just goes and sits and sunbathes and some people drink, and there will always be other camps there pretty much. I don't think I've been when there hasn't been other camps there. And it's like so entertaining to see, because especially if you've got like American staff on your nights off with you and days off with you, 90% of the time you'll go and they'll be like, oh, that's my friend from this camp, and oh, that's my friend from this camp there. I don't know if you have you found that at all?
Well, it's funny you say that. The last time I was at Skinner's last summer, I walked across the rocks, I looked, and I saw Tom Law, and
Hmm.
I was like, oh my God, Tom. And he goes to, is it Equinox or Blue Ridge? That's who
Yeah,
it
they're
was.
like together, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a co-ed camp, but it's split boys, girls.
Hmm.
And he works for them, and we just couldn't believe that we managed to be on the same day off at the same place at the same time. So we kind of stood with him for like 30 minutes and just had a chat, which was really nice. And then there was also camps from elsewhere, but we didn't really speak to them. Other people from my camp spoke to them, but we
Hmm.
didn't. And then there's also like members of the public there as well.
Mm.
So
Like
like
little kids.
yeah, so you've just got to be like careful to not get like rowdy and stuff.
Yeah.
But can we talk about the rocks and how dangerous they are? They are
Hmm.
so slippy. I know
Lethal.
every year there's always been a casualty at Skinner's. This
Hmm.
year, someone got hit in the face by accident, by I think it was a can, and it cut her face, and like she was like literally pouring. Luckily this time we had cars, so we took her straight back to camp to get like sorted
Uh-huh.
out. But previous years we've had broken bones from slipping on the rocks. We've had like head bumps. It's honestly, it's so dangerous but so much fun.
It is lethal. Like we, not last summer, but the summer before, we were all there and like chilling, and like obviously like on our day off, I think there was about 20, 25 of us there. Everyone's towels were all next to each other, we were all chilling. And this like guy from this other camp was mortal drunk, I'll be honest. I don't know what camp he was from, but and it was a bunch of Americans, and it was literally like something out of a movie. He came over and he slipped on the rock and he fell and he cracked his head, but obviously he was really drunk, so he didn't really feel the pain too much, but he was kind of like, oh, he was bleeding out all over everybody's towels. And then all of his mates started coming over and literally just like trampling all over our stuff, so everyone from our group was getting annoyed because they were like, all our stuff's getting gross and trampled over. This guy's bleeding out over people's towels. And they were like, bro, we can't take him back to camp like this, bro. No, oh my God, bro, what do we do? Like, and they were like freaking out. And we were kind of just like, well, what do we do? Like, there's nothing we can do. And like you were saying, they're slippy rocks. So if anybody does go to Skinner's Falls, it is a very popular place to go if you're kind of in the New York, Pennsylvania borderline camp region. Just please be careful, because you'll think you're not going to fall over. I can almost guarantee every person will fall over at some point on those rocks, even if you're stone cold sober.
Oh no, I fell on them rocks so many times sober.
Hmm.
And then also there's no shade, so be
Oh my
prepared.
God, no.
Especially if you're going to Skinner's and you're having a, I feel like I'm giving an orientation conversation.
Yeah.
If you go to Skinner's and you're drinking, be careful because you're going to be exhausted from your night off, no doubt. Because you've
Hmm.
probably not slept loads. If you're anything like us, we go to a motel and you fit about 7 people in a room.
Yeah.
So it's like literally $5 each, if that.
Squeeze
But
in.
um, be careful because there's no shade. You're probably going to be exhausted. You're drinking all day. You're in the heat. Like, it is a lot, and you've got to remember days off are when you need to recharge. So
Hmm.
even if you're recharging your social battery, you also need to recharge your working battery as well. So just be careful. But it is so much fun, and I definitely recommend going. Be
Hmm.
careful of the snakes in the river. I don't know if you've seen them.
Oh, I haven't seen any snakes in the
Oh
river.
no, we
Ooh.
saw about three. We saw about 3 or 4 last year.
Ooh.
Yeah, there
I'll
is
be
snakes.
careful.
So be careful. Be careful on the rocks. Don't take glass bottles because you're not allowed them.
Hmm.
And take sunscreen.
You can rent tubes as well. I haven't never rented one myself, but quite a few people. Have you seen that bit? You can like rent tubes from the top and like just like float down. It looks like people go to like Thailand and stuff and they do that
Yeah.
tubing. It just looks like that.
No, I hate it when the boys say that they're going to do it because they've all had a drink and it really
And you're like,
scares me because them conversations you have in school where it's like be
mhm,
careful of the current, you can't see what's underneath, and it always scares me
mhm.
that they're going to like wash away, especially when they're like there's some parts of Skinner's where like it's a you stand on the rock but it goes really deep.
Yeah.
And a few of the lads and some of the girls did it last year. They jumped off, and like they were doing flips and stuff, and they were so
Uh-uh.
close to like hitting the heads. And I was also like, you don't actually know how deep that is. So
We're
yeah,
like we're like sensible Sallys over here.
we
Like,
really
don't
are
go in tubes, don't jump in the river. Yeah,
sensible. Or
party
people
poopers.
listening, yeah, people are listening probably thinking, oh my god, they're so boring. But no,
Literally.
go and have fun, but responsible, because you don't
Yeah,
want the medical bill. Because I can tell you for now, after taking a medical bill out myself in America, it costs a lot of money. So you don't
yeah.
want to do it.
It's scary. Let's speak a little bit about having fun and being sensible as well. Like, obviously we've mentioned like drinking and stuff, and I think the people like senior members at staff at camp are not naive to the fact that when you have time off, like obviously a lot of people want to go and have a drink. My recommendation would be to save your drinking for when you have a night off into a day off and you don't have to come back to camp. Like when we have our mini nights off from like 9 till half 12, like that's only a very short period of time. So if you go out to a bar and you drink for 2 hours, it's gonna all hit you, and then you don't have time to sober up before you come back to camp. And you might think you're a great drinker at home, but trust me, when you get to camp, you're tired, you're not drinking as often, you're probably a bit dehydrated, and you might not have ate as much food as what you would usually do on a night out. Like the drink genuinely does hit you so much harder. And once you sign back in, you're back on duty. So if you sign in at like half 12, then you're back on duty. And if a kid needs you, like you can't really be drunk. And also it's a number one easy way to get fired is coming back to camp drunk.
Definitely. I mean, I know like last summer I was coming off nights off, and I already knew subconsciously that I had a camper in my bunk that was waking me up at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the
Mhm.
morning. So subconsciously I already knew not to like have much to drink.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think I didn't even have anything to drink, because I knew going back I was going to get woken up, and lo and behold, I got
Mhm.
woken up at them times in the morning.
Mhm.
And I just think like you've got to be on like your best behaviour, and you've got to be on your A game. And in
Mhm.
moments like that when the campers need you, they're the moments they'll remember.
Mhm.
So just like be conscious of that, but still go out and have fun. And like what you said is something Jake said last night on our camp Zoom call, was know your limits, but know that your limits are going to be a lot different to what they are when you're at home, because
Mhm.
of like what you said, the exhaustion, the dehydration,
Mhm.
and sometimes it doesn't really hit you until you get on the bus and until you're traveling to camp
Yeah.
from the bar. So just be careful, because it's probably the 90% of the firing that happens at camp is the
Alcohol.
from alcohol. And I've heard stories where counsellors have came back and they've been like sick on kids, they've came
Mm.
back and they've been sick around camp, they've came back, they've been too rowdy, you
Yeah.
know. We've got a guy that comes in during orientation and he tells you all these real stories,
Mhm.
and he's kind of like, this is what happens, and people get fired, and it's your own responsibility. So you hear all these stories during orientation and you're like, that's exactly what I don't want to do and I don't want to
Yeah.
be. So just never take it too far, because you'll regret it.
It is easy to accidentally let it happen. Like I know people that have been fired. 9 times out of 10, they're underage drinking anyways. I know it's really hard coming from like the UK, for example. You're allowed to drink from the age of 18. Most people have been drinking since the age of like 14. And then you go over to America and drinking age is 21. And most people like you don't have fake IDs. I don't know if a lot of the bars are like this around yours, but there's a bar called Dutch's, which is kind of near our camp. It's also right next door to Iroquois Springs as well, and they stopped accepting like driving licenses for ID from internationals. They were like, we'll only serve you if you've got your passport, because like they're obviously worried about like fake IDs and things like that. So especially if you're underage drinking, like A, you shouldn't really be doing it, and B, like you're gonna come back to camp, and if they notice they can smell alcohol and you're like, you will probably get fired. So just
And
be warned.
another top tip is, if you go into like a gas station or somewhere and get a drink before you go on somewhere like Skinner's, make sure that you dispose of all of the alcohol before you
Mm,
go back to camp. Because if you
yeah.
take alcohol onto camp, especially at a camp like mine, it's probably the same at yours, if I think.
Yeah.
You take alcohol onto camp and A, it's found, B, it's heard of that you're hiding it or stashing it,
Mhm.
you're in trouble. People make mistakes and it happens, and if you notice as soon as you get back to camp, take it up. If it's anything like my camp, if I was to take it up to my director and say, look, I've accidentally brought this back, can you
Yeah.
please dispose of it? That's better than hiding it.
So
So just
true.
make sure you check your bags.
Very true. And I know we've spoken a lot about drinking, but there are also a lot of things that you can do on nights off that don't center around drinking. So if anybody's like, I feel like drinking culture just isn't as big now as it was like pre-COVID. I know like my first summer when I went to camp, obviously it was 2022, everybody had been cooped up for a few years, and I feel like it was just like wild, rowdy nights off all the time. It was probably just the group of people that were at camp, but the last two summers, I feel like the nights off haven't been as crazy. I don't know if you've found the same. And also, like, I appreciate more, like, having a night off, like, going to the cinema, or days off where we just go to a lake, or, like, we go and find, like, there's a town called Ellenville right near us where I like to go, and I've got, like, my photo taken underneath the Ellenville sign next to the McDonald's and stuff. And, like, it's more fun, I find, just going to, like, those little random towns and places and just kind of, like, exploring them, as cringy as that sounds.
No, I totally agree, and it's something I said on the call last night as well, because we went on and we rambled about like drinking and stuff like that on the Zoom
Mhm.
call. But then I also like could see a few people's faces being a bit worried, and I was like, just realised that after the first or second week, people are so over going to bars because they're so tired. And
Mhm.
instead, they're choosing to go to Walmart on the night off. Like you said, I wish there was a cinema around where we are. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
there is. I know there's one in Hornsdale, but it closed down. But
Mm.
that would be such a good night off. And I feel like that would recharge your batteries, although I feel like I'd probably fall asleep in the cinema.
Yeah.
Um, but you've got the likes of Walmart, you've got the likes of, towns where they'll have restaurants to go to and where you can get a nice, big, healthy meal.
Mhm.
And then on your days off, you've got the likes of Middletown Mall that we go to, or a mall that's near where your camp is.
Mhm.
We went to Woodbury Commons on a day off this year.
Love.
They took buses and they sent us to Woodbury Commons. Again, luckily had a car, so I drove there. But that was so much fun. That was a nice day. A bit of retail therapy. Everybody needs it. And that day came on a day where I really I'd hit my peak. And
Mhm.
when you need your day off.
Yeah.
And that was so refreshing. And I didn't go out to the bar and I didn't drink alcohol. I
Mhm.
just went and had a nice chill day, and it was just the best day and one of my favorite days off. So if
Mhm.
you're not a big drinker, 9 times out of 10 there's probably going to be people at your camp that also aren't big drinkers. So don't
Yeah.
worry, you can still go to the bars. Obviously you'd have to have your ID, but you don't have
Mm.
to drink alcohol. Or
Mhm.
you can get a crew together and you can go to your local town, or if it's your day off, you can go to the mall.
Mhm.
Don't panic, like Ellen said, about drinking, and we've made it out and we've talked a lot about it, but it's not the core focus of the summer.
Yeah. The most like important part about your time off is like taking time to recharge. Like we're saying, you were saying about if you had a cinema near you, you'd probably fall asleep. During our day off, during orientation, and then one of our nights on a day off, like I'd done two cinema trips, and we were gonna go to the one at Middletown Mall, but it was actually really expensive. And then we're having a look online just to see if there's any other ones, and we found this one called Middletown Cinemas, and it had like a dodgy old website, but we're like, we'll try it. We pulled up outside, and I swear to God, it looked like the most crusty cinema in the world. Like, it didn't look like it was a real place. We went in, and like the sign outside was just, I don't know, it looked like someone had used word art on like Microsoft Word to create the sign that said Middletown Cinemas. We went in, and it was so old and like vintage. And we're like, they gave us like a little ticket, like, when you do a raffle, like that was
Yeah.
like our cinema ticket. But then there was like leather recliner seats, they were heated as well. Like it was unreal. So if you do want a cinema trip on a day off and you can get access to a car, then Middletown Cinemas, rather than the one that's in the Middletown Mall area, is really good. And we saw Inside Out 2, and then another time we saw Despicable Me 4, and it was so nice just lying there and chilling. And quite a few people did actually fall asleep in there. But that was a great way to spend my time off, I can't lie.
Oh no, I love that. Rounding the days a night off, I'm hoping that we can kind of align our day off maybe, and
That was so
hopefully
good.
we'll see you at Skinner's, or maybe I'll see you
Hmm.
at Middletown Mall. Who knows? Maybe we
Hmm.
can do a little podcast takes a vlog on YouTube.
That'd be so good.
Yeah, it'll be so fun. But we could go on and talk about like stories from nights and days off, but we just kind of wanted to give you a roundup of how they look. And then maybe in a future episode, we'll give you some stories and some fun memories that we have from our nights and days off. In the next episode, we're going to do a little feature with questions from yourselves that we've received, which I feel like will be a fun thing to start adding into the videos. And we also have an exciting guest lined up soon that Ellen's got prepared, so that's fun. We're going to start back doing guest episodes, but we'll see you in the next episode.